community councils. My take is a whole lot different than everybody else's. Is that this area was set up by the federal government as an entitlement area. I don't care what you name this place, because the naming of something is the way that a person or group or city, state feels. And we see how the city of Tulsa feels about black people. We see it. Because as you look at Brady, then you look at Greenwood and see the misuse of what's supposed to happen in that area. This area was set up by the federal government for black people, for the use of black people. We can come, I'm free now, we can get together, Mr. Henderson, you, and whoever else wants to come, and I can show you this.
You're still wanting to take me to lunch, aren't you?
No, you're taking me to lunch.
Oh, okay.
I prefer, yeah, you paying for all of them.
I would just go.
Yeah, Lincoln's picking up the tab. That's
Releases. It's releases.
Okay, now, back on something that's very serious to me. When I look at what the federal government has set up and how the city of Tulsa had used what the federal government has set up for the use of black people because of the way black people are treated in the United States, I feel appalled. And every sober-thinking black person should feel the same way, because what has happened is the growth of Brady Heights and the growth of Greenwood are totally on a different path. I'll go into this later, but come to think of it, I think the name Brady should be placed in a textbook and removed from the street, and the whole Brady district removed. Any questions? Thank you very much.
I have a question, if I may. What would you call it?
I call it Greenwood. The whole area of Greenwood. No, the whole area, including from Lansing all the way to Osage County line.
Thank you.
Greetings to our esteemed council members. My name is Kenny Williams, and I am Vice President of our Honor Society at McLean High School. I am ranked third in my graduating class. I represent the youth for Tulsa Coalition for Social Justice. We are demanding the kind of change that will create an environment of true inclusiveness beyond just an idea. One that represents a sincere desire for reconciliation in a city scarred by its ongoing continuation of ignorance regarding the complete history of Tate Brady as a Klansman, as well as known as a terrorist who participated and promoted the worst domestic act of terrorism on American soil, historically known as Tulsa Race Riot. This attempt to hide Tulsa's shame behind bright lights, historic neighborhoods, and modern art has failed because racist attitudes perpetuated can no longer depend on the literacy of the socially disadvantaged. On February 6, 2013, the city of Memphis passed a resolution to immediately rename Confederate Park and Jefferson Davis Park in downtown Memphis and Nathan Bedford Forest Park, which lies just a few miles away. The vote was 9-0. Nathan Forrest, a Confederate general and cavalry leader, was a slave trader before the war and the KKK's first Grand Wizard. He also is accused of massacring dozens of black Union soldiers who tried to surrender at the Battle of Fort Pillow in 1864. Please note that this was just an accusation. We are not accusing Tate Brady of anything. We are just stating documented facts. Also note that Nathan Bedford II and Wyatt Tate Brady were close comrades and the sons of Confederacy, as well as being KKK brothers. The only obvious difference between the council and the city council in Memphis and the city council here is that Tulsa's council is predominantly white and Memphis is predominantly black. This is your chance to prove that color really doesn't matter by doing what is socially right. I make a recommendation that council change the name of Brady Street to a name that reflects reconciliation and unity in Tulsa. We thank you for your time and trust that you not let my generation down the way our foreparents who are denied reparations have been let down. Any step towards changing Tulsa's tainted history is a good step. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mr. Bynum in particular for ensuring that this would get on the agenda. I'd like to thank Councilman Jack Henderson. Since the beginning of this campaign to rename Brady, we've been hit with a barrage of privilege-based perspectives that directly reflect what can best be described as cognitive dissonance. Allow me to explain how it works. When people are in an uncomfortable situation, their minds rationalize it by inventing comfortable illusions. For example, some have stated, what will they ask for next? Next, they'll be demanding that the name of the Washington Memorial be changed. After all, he owned slaves. You would be surprised how many so-called intelligent-minded people have expressed that sentiment. Now, allow me to provide reason why this comparison to Tate Brady lacks intelligence. Despite being immoral, the ownership of slaves was illegal in the United States of America. Tate Brady's Klan activities were not. George Washington also condemned the act of tarring and feathering during the Whiskey Rebellion, an act which Tate Brady not only participated in but ordered against fellow white citizens. George Washington was never a member of the KKK. Tate Brady was. In fact, the U.S. government enacted the Enforcement Act of 1871, also known as the KKK Act, to ensure the protection of its citizens from crimes and acts of terror. It has also been stated, why can't you people just get over it? I mean, we weren't even alive when it happened, and we can't change the past. Parts of North Tulsa look like the destruction of 1921 happened just 10 years ago. Anyone who seriously suffers from cognitive dissonance would fail to see how the past and the present connect. Have you ever visited a Jewish Holocaust? Anybody? Holocaust Museum? Great. Can you imagine telling Jewish people to forget what happened to their foreparents? It's not even conceivable. Why did Jews bring this up year after year? And it's so decisive, it's so divisive. You'll never hear anybody utter those types of statements, except the KKK. Most would agree with my statements, but follow with, yes, but look at them. They've moved on and they're highly productive people collectively. I could not agree more. They moved on because the whole world helped hunt down the perpetrators so that justice would be served. Not here. We actually honored those who committed evil acts. They moved on because they ensured themselves that the whole world would never forget what happened to them. Tulsa, however, perfected the art of hiding history and to this day refuses to amend the dark past of Tate Brady. The pioneers of Greenwood had already suffered generationally hundreds of years of chattel slavery, slave codes, and for some the Trail of Tears, and people still say just get over it. Next, there were Jim Crow laws from 1876 to 1965. They still say get over it, it's in the past. During the period of lynching of African Americans, that rose to an all-time high and did not decrease until the 1960s. Get over it, it's all in the past. This was followed by multiple assassinations and the murder of both black and white civil rights activists. J. Edgar Hoover's counterintelligence programs that lasted from 1956 to 1975 devastated our community as attempts to create future leaders would be severely paralyzed by fear and intimidation. Of course, that was a long time ago. We should get over it. Just let it all go. I could go on, but the point I'm making here is that when you become a victim of such large-scale violence, it's difficult to overcome the scar of that kind of past. And in our attempts to repair, it's been, time after time, it's been voided by get over it, it's all in the past, or the statute of limitations has passed. Something is always past. There's always an excuse. There's always a sign of cognitive dissonance. Now, whether it's just pure ignorance or cognitive dissonance, some say that this is a black issue. It's not. It's a human issue. Some have asked me, with all the problems in North Tulsa, why is this a focus? Not one person who criticizes this effort has put into place a viable community-sustaining solution beneficial to North Tulsa. And if they did, the Greenwood District, or what's left of it, would be as vibrant as what is now the Brady Arts District. Changing the Brady name is good for all people, not just black people, as some might suggest. For all those who feel that changing the Brady name will destroy the history, I would like to quote two historic figures. The great writer George Orwell stated, "The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history." It is fair to say that hiding the legacy of Old Greenwood was successful. Napoleon Bonaparte stated, "History is a set of lies agreed upon." And we have discovered what the lies are. The truth is about history. The truth can be put in history. And if you truly want to keep the history of Tate Brady alive, then talk to Bob Blackburn at the Oklahoma Historical Society and ensure that the entire history of Tate Brady is amended. We implore you to consider a vote to change the name
Sir,
of
your
Brady
time is
Street.
up.
Then a committee that will change the name, that will make Tulsa look like an inclusive city, look like the kind of place you want to visit. Thank you.
Survivor of that 1921 massacre wasn't just a race riot, it was a massacre. And it's very emotional and close to me because my grandmother just passed away last year. She was 105. And as I spoke and said the last time when we talked, Chief said the right thing. It's not a black issue. It's not a white issue. It's a right issue. It's just the right thing to do. No, you're not canceling you in black. But it should affect you just like it affects me. It really should. Because it's a right issue. One thing that I've noticed living in this city, and I've lived here 50 years, one thing that I've noticed is this. Caucasian people most generally stick together in right and in wrong. And as you all will look and see, it's not just black folk that are asking that this name be changed. There are Caucasian people that are here that share our same sentiments because it's wrong. It's just wrong. And most generally, black folks usually don't stick together. Let me say that. We most generally don't stick together. But you all do that are Caucasian. And when you see black folk and white folk coming together on a common cause and saying that it's wrong, you nine counselors should see what we see because it's just wrong. And you have the opportunity because you all said last meeting that you didn't have the power. But I believe if you all check the bylaws, and you all say your council attorney is here, but if you all check the bylaws, I believe you do have the power to make a wrong right. Thank you.
Very long because I think everybody's pretty much said what I felt. They did. But I'd like to implore you all to listen to the will of the people. There are people here that like to keep history as it is, as it remains. But we need to also recognize there's been a history that's been forgotten. The earlier speaker talked about history was just a lie agreed upon. Well, somebody lied about Tulsa because they would have included somewhere in this city the name of Josiah Perryman, the founder of Tulsa Town. Yet there's nothing in the city named after him whatsoever. So when you get to a chance to have an open mind, an open heart, as this debate goes on about the renaming of Brady, let these children come together, come up with a name. Let the people who have the businesses in the Brady district come up with a name. Let the people who have issues with it come up with a name, and then get back with you. Because I think that's the right thing to do. Instead of digging our feet into the ground and further make an incident that happened so many years ago come back to fruition as if it would happen.
Mike Workman, Act 2. My friend said it might be a hard act to follow after last week. I did enjoy myself more than I maybe was entitled to, but I give you tonight the extended version of the Brady funeral oration. Friends, Tulsans, country persons, lend me your hearts. I come to bury W.T. Brady, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones. Let it be so with Brady. the noble Brady Arts District hath told you that Brady is just a street name. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously has Tulsa answered it. Here, under the leave of the Tulsa City Council and the rest, for Brady was an honorable man. So are many streets named, all after honorable persons and cities. Come I now to speak in Brady's funeral. He was once a friend, faithful and just to Tulsa, but now others say Brady was a Klansman, and Brady was an honorable man. The Brady Arts District has brought many dollars home to Tulsa, whose taxes did the general coffers fill. Did this in Tulsa seem appropriate? When that the artists have cried, Tulsa hath wept. Street names should be made of sterner stuff. Yet others now say Brady was a Klansman, and Brady was an honorable man. You all did the see in this council chamber. I once presented you 9 alternatives, which you did not yet act upon. Was this responsive? Yet others now say Brady was a Klansman, and sure, he was an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brady did, but I here am to speak what I do know now. Tulsa did name a street after him once, not without cause. What cause compels you then to still show honor for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and the Brady Arts District hath lost their moral compass. Bear with me. My heart is on the street sign there with Brady, and I must pause till it comes back to me. Now obviously satire, sarcasm, and parody are a good way to make a point. And if you're going to crib a quote, crib from Shakespeare. If you would show the first graphic. Also, the best way to make a point, as I showed you last week, the Michael Christopher, a local artist, came up with an alternative of the Brady Arts District, the Tate Brady Arts District, showing the Klanman, available in t-shirt. But if you'll show graphic number 2, it's hard to see in this graphic here, but it's now available in a hoodie. What says Brady better than a hoodie? No, I did give you 9 alternatives. $18.99 Mayor Bynum. If you made that motion, I don't know if you get a second for Mayor Bynum Street. I gave you 8 others, and they were in alphabetical order, but I knew the last one would be the most entertaining. And at the request of Councilman, who's the street relies in his district, I now give you graphic number 3. The Gary Busey Arts District. You asked for it? Now, all the 9 names I gave you were just conversation starters. All 9 of them are flawed people. I'm flawed. We're all flawed. But each and every one of those names, including Gary Busey, is more worthy of being honored with a street name in an arts district.
Mr. Gordon, you have 1 minute.
Again, B for Boston, no problem. B for Boulder, no problem. B for Brady, also we have a problem. A for Archer, B for Brady, C for Cincinnati. We've already shown we can think outside of the alphabet with Martin Luther King Boulevard, so let's think outside of the B's. Blake Street won't get a second. But there are individuals who were lynched and killed before the race riot. There are victims who died in the race riot whose names start with a B. Pick anyone at random if you want to stay with B. But if you really want to think outside the alphabet, Greenwood, Woody Guthrie, George Kaiser, ABB, anything but Brady. And I'll leave you with the last graphic here, number 4.
And your time is up.
What you leave behind is not what is written in stone, but what is woven into the lives of others.
Associated with Brady, and I told that person that the council did not have the authority to do anything about those other names. But research, and everybody knows that we can, as a council, do something about changing of a street name because we've done it before. So they asked me to put it on the agenda again. I want to thank Councilman Bynum for calling me up and saying that he wanted to co-sponsor this to be placed on so people could come down, have an opportunity to voice their opinions, and we did that tonight. I'm excited about the people that came down. I'm excited about the information they gave. This is a start. So where do we go from here? After some other councils have an opportunity to speak, I would like to come back and make a recommendation, and we'll see what we can do from there.
Councilor Bynum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate
Kate Brady or the preservation of the name or anything else. I don't see anybody refusing to address this issue head on. I mean, I appreciate everybody being here, but know that we are, well, I don't want to speak for we. I am open and receptive to all of this. I'm a person just like everybody else in this room. I'm willing to do whatever is in the best interest of our city, for sure. I do agree with Councilor Bynum and Patrick and Henderson that this has to be a process that we go through with the cooperation of the business owners, those that will be impacted economically by any kind of change, because there are addresses printed on business cards and letterhead and big signs and a whole bunch of other things that have to be changed. So I would just encourage us to go through a logical process with the people who would be most impacted economically in that district as we collectively, hopefully, decide what the name of this area and street should be.
Go along with forming a task force, and we could select people from each district to serve on this task force. And the reason for the task force is that this group of people would be able to go out and do the research to find out what damage, this would be like a damage control type deal. If we change the name, what's the benefit from changing the name? If we don't change the name, what's the hurt in not changing the name? And I think that if we get, each one of us can pick people to serve on that committee, and then that committee can come back to the city council and report out, what the desire of the whole should be. And if they choose to change the name, then the citizens can be a part of trying to pick another name. Or I just think that the downtown area has a new face, and it's, those of you who lived in Tulsa all your lives know exactly what I'm talking about. Our downtown used to roll the sidewalks up at 5 o'clock, and we have gone far beyond that. We have a downtown second to none. We got businesses flourishing, we got restaurants everywhere, clubs, hotels. I mean, this is the type of city that you want to see. This is the type of downtown you want to see in your city. And I think that we do not want to leave a name around if it's going to hurt the growth that Tulsa has already experienced. And I think that we need to pull together as a unit to make sure that we continue to change the face of Tulsa. And downtown has already proven that we can do that by the things that we have done. If the council would be if they would be in favor of setting, putting this back in committee, coming up with a group of people that we can all agree to say, okay, committee, go out and do your thing and find out what it is that we need to do about this. I don't think that we ought to sit here tonight and make any decisions, but that group of people, once we pick them, can help shape what we're going to do about this name. And I think that that's a start in the right direction, because it's already came to light, and CNN was here. The last thing we need to do is try to let somebody that has been dead for 85 years dictate what we end up doing in 2013. So if anybody else has any other suggestions of things that we can do, we can listen to that. But if not, if you would agree to have a consensus to say that we need to form a committee and we could do that, I think that that would be moving in the right direction.
Of, like, those representatives of the Brady Arts District and Brady Heights and anybody else that shares the name Brady. But is that part of this task force as well? Or how do you handle that?
I think that the councilman for that particular district that has more at stake than anybody at this podium here.
Mr. Boyd.
Should have an input on helping to select some of these people. And definitely people in his district, because we don't want to stifle anything that has came out positive from the Brady district. And you know, the name may not be there, but the fact that we have businesses, all kinds of things in downtown that's on a positive, you know, I think that he, as well as the rest of the council, can come up with a scenario on how we're gonna do it. I don't think that it's gonna necessarily take shape right here tonight, but I think that if we think about it, you know, we can join our forces together and come up with a way to do it.
Can I ask, somebody was talking earlier today about what the council can rename and what the federal government has to rename, and what are all those different, we only have responsibility over the street. And then there's the historical Brady district.
Yes.
That's a
Brady Neighborhood Association, Historic Brady District, the Brady Arts District, Brady Heights, Brady.
So some are associations.
But every one of those, I think, has a board of people that sit on that board to help make that go. And I think those are the people that have something at stake. We had a person to come here last week, and I think he said he was representing 3 of those entities, and he said, we're listening to you, we hear your cry. That meant to me that they may be amenable to be a part of trying to shape what happens here. So, you know, those are the kind of things we need to talk about.
I think the more we're all talking together, going all the same direction, rather than one group going off and meeting
Exactly.
this way, and we want to work together rather than pulling each other apart. So,
Exactly.
okay, good. I'm supportive.
I'd first like to thank my colleagues for taking such a strong role of leadership on an issue in District 4, and I'm glad to farm out any of the other issues that I have to deal with to you guys. If you'd like to just maybe form a line after the meeting, and I'll hand out issues to you guys to deal with. You've done a nice job with this one.
Some of those are some pretty big investments.
Very
in your neck of the woods.
Very grateful. Also, I've been excited to see an interest in downtown from colleagues who oftentimes not share the enthusiasm for downtown that maybe I thought they should have. So that's exciting. I guess we're on the right track. I'll take any other suggestions that you guys have about how this should be handled, or if you'd like me to continue to sit here in silence while you solve this issue, I'm glad to do that as well. I would say thank you again to the people who chose to come out and spend your Thursday night with us. There are really good things on TV on Thursday night. Well, there are, come on, Mike. And I know most of those things that you could have been doing outside of here would have perhaps been more entertaining for you than this, maybe not. But really, I'd say it always means a lot to me when citizens, young and old, you know, black, white, and Chinese, choose to engage the process and share their passions and convictions with us. It makes it, you know, this job's not always fun. You know, I know it's a surprise to you. A lot of times it sucks, but to me, the good moments are these. The good moments are when we're reminded what we're doing it for, and it's when people who love their city and are passionate about their city choose to come and sit in that gallery in those quasi-comfortable chairs and you know, make a petition to us. So thank you for that. Again, I would thank those of you who are from This Land Press for the shining a light on this issue and bringing it to the point of conversation. Our community, regardless of how this goes, needed the conversation. We need the tension. We need to be dealing with this in 2013. I think, yeah. So that's my thought. At this point, I'm grateful. I don't know what's going to happen. I couldn't even guess what's going to happen. I can guess. I would guess that a lot of things named Brady today won't be named Brady next year. I don't know what they will be named. I don't know what the process will look like. I don't know if it's a fight or if it's easy. But my hope is that whatever happens and however that conversation goes, that it's a conversation that down the line we can be proud of. We've got enough issues of division and frustration between subgroups and cultures in our community. Let's not make this be another one of those things. And that's really my plea. If we're going to have this conversation, which has the potential to be kind of a mess, I just hope that everyone remembers that we get to set an example today that we wish had been set for us about how to deal with things like this. So I will effort however I can to recruit people together. I think that it's been made clear to me by the different groups in the downtown Brady associations that they're willing to have that conversation. There's no question. I think you've got a very open-minded group to that. We haven't talked a whole lot about Brady Heights in this. It's been largely focused on the Brady Arts District, but there's a much larger, actually, geographic area known as the Brady Heights neighborhood that is not in my district, but that extends, several miles, right? 3 miles in to Councilor Henderson's district. So I ask for your patience as we figure this stuff out. I think it sounds to me like the council across the board has taken this issue up, and you shouldn't have any trouble finding elected people who are glad to be advocates for what you shared tonight. So thank you once again.
Okay, without objection, we'll sign this back to committee for further discussion, and now we're going to proceed forward on our task force or what we decided to be.
I'm happy. This seems like across the board on the whole council that they agree with us, and we just need to meet with the business owners. 3 of them has already reached out to us, so we'll have a meeting with them Saturday, and I think it's going to be really good. I am for the task. I am for the task. It's needed. It was shocking because I came in not expecting much just from dealing with this city. And I didn't want to get my hopes up, but like I told this damn press, with God anything is possible. And if we would just stick to the facts and explain to them why we feel this way, that they would agree, and I'm glad that they did.
So why do you think the change of heart?
I think they realized all the things that Tate Brady was about, and I really think this article that Leroy Chapman did with This Land Press really opened up the minds of a lot of people. And then with us just kind of just hitting them with it and keeping it in their face, and they understood. And it just shows that the city is really coming to the point of reconciliation, and it's a good start. It's a real good start.
How did you think the event went tonight?
I believe it was highly effective. Sometimes you have to analyze people to get them to understand what's going on inside the mind, and when you start discussing issues like cognitive dissonance, that really strikes you, because especially if you've never heard of it, and you start to analyze, well, maybe this is where all of this comes from. So the way I think is, we don't want to repeat history. And the only way we keep from repeating history is to be fully aware of what has taken place in history. That's why I wanted to, speak about quotes with George Orwell and Napoleon Bonaparte, so that you could get some idea of how historians or people in history have viewed the idea of history. Like Napoleon said, history is just a lie agreed upon. So if we don't really study history or his story, we can be very deluded, and we find ourselves engaged in things that, it's like, wow, this is really, this is like they said at City Council. I can't believe, that we didn't know about this. I mean, this is new information, and it's unfortunate that our foreparents didn't teach us You know, and then we're having to learn this information in a city council meeting. You know, I can only imagine.
Sounds like you guys were teaching them too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you have to be informed if you're going to present information to people. I always tell people, don't speak on things you can't back up. You know, because then it just makes you look ridiculous. And nobody, we come from a background of people who have been highly intellectual, highly influential, and you know, it makes you really understand why the demise of people like us. Why is this such why is this such a global, operation? It's like, okay, the demise of these people is inevitable. We have to make sure. I mean, Tulsa World said it best in 1921, June 1st. We must never let little Africa happen again. That's a serious statement.
I think that it's going really well. I think that everybody's receptive to creating a discussion about the name change, and they understand the voices that are being raised and the points that are being raised, why it's important. That's correct.
Doing that article actually opened up that?
Yeah, it's interesting that we included some information in the article that wasn't previously published, but what's really happened is that the history of Cape Brady that was known to the north side and published since 1995 has just made it south of the tracks. So it's an interesting process to watch.